Let's take a peek at the final website we plan to make for a minute. So you can see here that our h1 tag, which says mysite.com, is actually on the same line as our h2 tag, which says where you can learn cool stuff about me. Now we've learned that if you make a new element like an h1 or h2, it will always start a new line. And also, no matter how much white space you add to any single tag, it will only add one space. So how is it that this is all the way over here? It's not a change in the HTML. We're done with the HTML for this course. It's actually a CSS property called a float. I've attached a file in the materials section with a code to this new document I've created here. What I'm about to show you is a new document. It's not related to the one we're making. It's just an example so I can show you what a float is. Basically, it's exactly as it sounds. When you use the CSS Float property, the element which has a float attached will have its position almost considered to be floating. I know that sounds a little weird, and I'm not referring to a 3D graphic. Basically, whatever is floated will lose its block level attributes, and everything else will actually wrap in line around it. Let's take a look at this example. First, the HTML. Inside of the body of the document, we can see that we have a section tag with a header tag inside of it. This will act just the same as when we had the h1 tag inside of the header. It's just a tag inside of another tag. You can now see that the header tag is empty. Then we have an article with a few paragraphs of lorem ipsum. Then we close the article and the section. So again, we have inside of the section tag a header and an article, and the article has some text inside of it. Now looking at the CSS, going line by line, the body is 1100 pixels. So since everything is inside of the body, everything else will need to fit inside of this 1100 pixel box. The section is given a definite height of 500 pixels and a grayish background color. Now understand that when it comes to heights, the element will have a height that fits whatever's inside. So like we saw in our document here, let's go back to it. These each have some text. And at the end of the text, the element ends. So if we don't have a height, its height is automatically the size that it needs to be. Here, I want it to specifically be 500 pixels for this demonstration. Normally, since the header doesn't have anything inside it, it would have a height of 0, making it invisible. But here, we give it a specific height and width of 300 by 300 pixels. We also give it a red background color. The article has a width of 1000 pixels, so slightly smaller than the section, and its height will be automatic based on the amount of text inside. It also has a blue background. Now I moved a little fast through that, but don't worry, because most of it isn't too important for this demonstration. Let's just take a look in our browser. So just as we would expect, we have this gray box, which is the section. We have the red box with a width and height of 300 pixels, which is our header. And as to be expected, after the header, the article starts on a new line. Because elements like header, article, footer, h1, p, they all start new lines. But take a look at what happened. Since we set a specific height for the section of 500 pixels, the article is now actually overflowing outside of it. Just pay attention here. The first words of the lorem ipsum is start here. That'll be important in just a minute. Back in Notepad, let's add on one more CSS property to the header. And it's going to be what we were speaking about, a float. Now when we use a float property, we need to tell the element to either float left or right. It can't go up and down. Let's make it float left. We'll save the document and refresh our browser. And now everything is inside of the section element, and the text is wrapping around this header element. Also notice that the words start here are still showing. I put that so you would know that we didn't actually lose the text behind the header, and that's basically what float does. You can experiment with it more, but it's a slightly more complicated property, so I'll show you some cool things you can do with floats in the intermediate course. In the next section, I'll apply what we just learned.